Hello everyone, good evening and welcome to round 3 of Low Drag Racing League. We've got a soaking wet Silverstone in traditional British fashion. It is my pleasure to bring you this once again, and on a week where beta leaks, where just about everything you can think of on the planet has occurred. It is time to get underway. We've got such an exciting championship fight where the top 4 are currently separated by just 5 points. I'm really excited to get stuck into this one. The 18-minute short qualifying clock might be about to start, but I think we're already running into a few issues with Aaron Ocon forgetting how his Wi-Fi is supposed to function. I mean, it's not his fault at the end of the day, but you know what I mean. Just making sure that is all in check. There we go. We are underway now for 18 minutes of qualifying. If you did miss last week, then where were you for a start? But it was a seriously chaotic racer. Mid-race, late-race safety car absolutely blew everything out of proportion. Jab with 2 laps to go. He gambled on pitting for the soft tyres. He had the race win and his second of the season in the bag. But he could only finish 8th in the end with fastest lap, which is why he sits on 30 points, as does Beatnik, as does Andrea. And Pluto's win did take him up to 35. So that is how it stands there. Aaron Ocon back in the session. We've got 18 this evening. And considering our roster is now up to 38, it is a bit... it's crazy. But it was a full grid last time out with, in the end, 8 DNFs as it stood. A couple of late classifications, Cobb confirming reserve for Haas this evening alongside Kirby that he is going to be a dry race. So, intermediate qualifying, dry setups on the cars. This could really go down to a pure test of skill. First one around is LDRL. Andrea's got his tunes on. I don't know what he's listening to. Johann Sebastian Bach. Never heard of it, them, her, him. You never really know nowadays. But let's take a look at the World Drivers' Championship standings. And of course, 24 participations so far this season. We've got 5 more debutants tonight, including Matti Mumu on the PC platform, now a full-time driver for Mercedes after being unavailable in the last 2 weeks. Oh, and that is a spin that looks perhaps for tyre warming purposes. But ERS Ardell has had a spin on the exit of Stowe. Be fortunate that that doesn't invalidate his next lap as well. As he rounds the final corner. There's chicane and then club. To complete the first lap of Silverstone. But now he takes it on in anger. And there's an AlphaTauri coming out of the pit lane. That is either one of Pluto or Will Cromack. I believe that is our most recent race winner in Low Drag Racing League, emerging onto the circuit. Ardell then through the loop. And that is me saying leave or disqualification. Because I know who it is. And I can look who it is. Right, enough of that. We've got our first laps to complete. Ardell into the final corner now, and this will be the benchmark. I if people want to ruin it, if drivers want disqualifications, they are more than welcome to have a disqualification. I'm not afraid, but he's left now, and as long as he hasn't taken control of the car, that is okay, because anything else, and it's a restart. Just like that, jab round to the final corner. The former championship leader, before it all went slightly pear-shaped, we've got Kirby out there on the wet tyres. Willer's opted for the soft, so maybe there is just a sense of hope that it is going to dry up towards the end of this session. Axe F1 Esports Challengers driver, making his first appearance, of course, since Season 3, up into third at the moment. 8 tenths behind is FRT Edgars, beating purple in the purple in the first sector, the only driver so far with a 100% podium rate. 2 third-place finishes to kickstart his campaign, and this is the track where he won at in Season 2 by just a tenth of a second, following a penalty to his championship rival Asian, who he then beat by just 1 point. That was the margin of error back then. Arguably, it's even more significant now as, well, as I said, top 4 separated by 5 points, and down towards Stowe he goes. He's got the Haas in front of him, who hopefully will yield, and that might be the Haas that's on the wet weather tyres. And a big snap coming out of Stowe for Beatnik as he tries to contend with the provisional pole time set by Pluto. 1:35.556 into the Vale chicane, now exiting club and onto the Sir Lewis Hamilton straight. Might be unpopular in a Red Bull, but he goes quickest with a 1:35.367. Aaron Ocon pulling over as well. That is a stationary Haas, and jab crosses the line and betters the lap time set by Beatnik. The top 4 in the championship, all occupying the top 4 at the moment, though be it a little bit jumbled up. Aaron Ocon has just completed his first run, though it is invalid. Same goes for his Alpine teammate Blue Goggy. Still to cross the line, Axe F1, who absolutely shatters the lap time set by his fellow American Jab on a track where he might value some wet weather practice at, ahead of challenges a week on Tuesday. Of course, Imola to come up first, and then Silverstone. Of course, they're all competing for a place at the Pro Exhibition, whether it be held here in Silverstone again this year or elsewhere. It'll be a fantastic watch and achievement nevertheless, whoever can pull that off. Another invalidation for Aaron Ocon, rock bottom at the moment. So far, Aaron Ocon yet to score a point this season. His Alpine teammate Blue Goggy on 10 after 2 scores in the first 2 rounds. We go on board now with the Alpine. He is based, of course, here in the UK, but does like to throw in his Maltese heritage. And he's gone ever so slightly wide at Copse Corner. It is so unforgiving because you can go 3 or 4 metres wide there and the game will completely let you off. Those are the things you've got to look out for. But Blue Goggy, as with his Alpine teammate, invalidates yet another lap time. And that sounded like a crash at the final corner, and there's a McLaren in that final sector. And Atlantis J20 in his Aston Martin has crashed out from the lofty heights of P5. That is such a shame to see Atlantis on his, well, second race return. Full foul of the final corner. And look at this out in front. Axe F1, Beatnik 714. And Jab, an all-American top 3 in the United Kingdom, there's just 2/1000ths of a second in it out there so far. Aaron Ocon, he's going again for his third consecutive lap. Kirby still gambling out there on the wet tyres, but I think the rain is starting to stop here. So at what point does that become a seriously invalid tyre to be on? Aaron Ocon might well get the best of the intermediate conditions out there at the moment, but still Beatnik is pushing, still Jab is pushing. Beatnik 2.5 seconds down, so this one won't count. Jab 4/10ths up as of the first sector as he approaches the sector 2 split now. Left 30 more seconds to go to complete this lap. And it's a beautiful exit out of Chapel. And what's that? 6/10ths up. It is a purple middle sector. And as it stands, it'll be enough to go to the top of the timesheets. Stow awaits as the track gets ever drier. That dry line starting to form. Oh, but a bit of understeer. And he's actually going to pull it into the pit lane. So maybe thinking, no, let's go back in. The soft tyres are about to be faster. So those dry setups that you'd assume all of the drivers have used are going to start to come in really handy here. Blue Goggy out of the pit lane on a set of softs. Gogglesaw, Matty Mumu, Oliver Crisp on softs as well. Oliver Crisp will be the first driver out there, I think, to set a lap time on the slick tyres. No, sorry, he's on the intermediates. Forgive me. Mistake on my part there. Who is actually going to be first? Matty Mumu a little ahead. Will Cromack filters out of the pit lane as well. LSJ Rundle at Brooklands. E.T. Andrea on the intermediate tyres. I don't think he'll fancy those, and he might come straight back into the pit lane. Edgar's as well, also on the intermediate tyres, but it's absolutely peak conditions out there for these intermediate tyres to work at their ideal operating window, and it's a purple middle sector, in fact, for the Latvian, who has a new teammate this evening, but he pulls into the pit lane. Oh, and that is a spinning Alfa Romeo getting back underway, and that's halfway down the Wellington Straight. It's not often you see a spin that late around the lap. Who is going to be first then? Still trying to figure this one out. ERS Ardell on the soft tyres. Here he goes in his Ferrari. Late turning for turn 1, trusting all of the grip he's got on those Red Wall Pirelli tyres. And it's such a strange sensation when you've been on the intermediate tyres on a wet track as well. You suddenly have so much more grip to play with. And suddenly, DRS will be enabled as well. In fact, not yet. Not yet. DRS still not enabled. So these aren't going to be the most optimal laps. But a 1.3 second gain in the first sector. Ooh. Start to assume that DRS will be enabled soon. Watching Gogglesaw, still no DRS. There it is. And he gets a small helping of it down the back straight. Gogglesaw yet to set a lap, hasn't had too much preparation or indeed race time on this game as a whole. He's going to try and spoil the show here. Pluto down into the final corner. He's about to start his latest lap. Let's go back on board with Ardell, who's the first around on the soft tyres, and second time lucky he does have some DRS. Running right to that outside curb. We saw Sergio Perez have a spin come out of Chapel during the first ever F1 sprint. Into Stowe Corner he goes, where we've seen many crashes down the years, and well, more recently 2019 now into Vale Chicane, where Max Verstappen and Sebastian Vettel had a collision. Round to the final corner now comes Ardell, and unsurprisingly it is a lap time that sends him top of the timesheets, which Matty Mumu betters by almost a second. They're only going to get quicker from now until the rest of these 5 minutes remaining in this qualifying session. Gogglesaw crossing line of 31.2 as he still starts to warm up and back into the rhythm of the F1 game. Pluto up into... sorry, that's Rundle up into P2. I was just keeping an eye on Pluto as he progressed around the lap. Blue Goggy on a flying lap here. I think it might be Pluto up next to cross the line. No, it isn't. It'll be Will Cromack. That's the first AlphaTauri, and he's, well, within half a tenth of Matty Mumu. It is so close out there. Blue Goggy adding his name to the top 3. Again, 7/1000ths of a second behind Will Cromack. It is only getting quicker out there, but just who can find the ideal lap time? It surely be the last driver out there gets the best of the conditions. In fact, drivers doing more than one lap in a row here, but will they come back into the pit lane at the end just to reserve themselves some time for one run on a fresh set of softs. LSJ Rundle almost 6/10 up at the moment. We are talking huge gains at the moment. EOS Ardell has run out of fuel. Gogglesaw 7/10 up, but he's starting to run out of battery, so that advantage might diminish. No, it isn't. 1.7 seconds now he's found, which will be enough to take him top of the timesheets. Matty Mumu back into the pit lane again. What I was talking about, reserving some time to get out again for one final run. Gogglesaw traffic free into the final corner. Atlantis, the only retirement so far, and into the final corner comes Gogglesaw. And where will he go? Unsurprisingly quickest for the reserve Williams driver today, ahead of Com45, who is probably bawling his eyes out at the Tottenham Hotspur score, which, by the way, if you were that eager to know, is 3-1. Kane has pulled one back, but I'm pretty sure half of their fans have only gone and left the stadium begging for another refund. Speaking of Tottenham Hotspur, let's go on board where GSR Thresher has a votee as well to the North London club. And here he goes. P14, a 5-second improvement. Not quite sure what happened there. It might have been invalid, and I didn't quite pick up on it. An invalid run this time out for Gogglesaw, who'll be racing back to the pit lane. I don't think he's left himself enough time here to get back out again. So the lap time of 1:29.492 is the one to beat. Axe F1 is surely the favourite to beat that by a long stretch. And we'll go on board. Take it in on the Northamptonshire-Buckinghamshire border. New hotel complex to the left-hand side. That's not the first of the accommodation that the circuit organisers are building. But Village Corner slightly wide of the apex, just trusting the front end to do the job though as he exits the corner. Rounding turn number 4 and then 5, and now onto the Wellington Straight. Turn 6 is up ahead, Brooklands, where he'll brake really, really late into the corner. The 50-metre board missing on the right-hand side. That might cause him a bit of a problem. And again, understeering out wide and off into a spin. A rare moment there for Axe F1, who went purple in the first sector. He'll have to try and recharge the battery and hope those tyres stick with him for one final run in the session. Outlaps for Matty Mumu, for Blue Goggy, for Ardell as they all come out onto the circuit as late as humanly possible. And that is Axe F1, I think, trying to get disqualified. To start at the back of the field. I hope he's found a nice gap to put that into. I think he has, in fact, so well played for him. But though Jab is coming around at the moment, through Luffield, purple in the first sector, through the yellow flags. Now real life F1, that would be a slowdown, and if you didn't, perhaps as much as a 5-place grid penalty. Not around here, it isn't, in the virtual world. Into Cop's corner then, trusting it completely flat out. We're now at the stage where you can get everything out of the cars on the grid. 18 of them, in fact, 16 participating as we speak. Jab then, will he be purple in the middle sector just as he was in the first? Yes, by 6 seconds, he's up on his intermediate lap time. Stowe corner still to come. There's a bit of traffic ahead of him. We'll be hoping that Alfa Romeo yields. He pulls back onto the racing line. A very close shave there as they all fight with the 20 seconds remaining to them to get one final lap in. And Jab might be at a disadvantage of going early here, but he crosses the line into the 1:26s, a 26.8 in fact. LSJ Rundle is off at Maggots and Beckett. A strange place to bin it. Thrasher crosses the line up into P2, but still miles off the pace at the moment. These are the lap times that are really going to count. Blue Goggy, his qualifying is over. He has invalidated on this particular run. Who is going to be up first then? I think it's one of the Mercedes cars. It's FRT Edgars. That is magnificent. Through Maggots, Beckett's and Chapel, the driver who finished 4th last week from 8th on the grid. It was a sensational climax to that race, but will it be a sensational climax to his qualifying? Stowe Corner once again, half throttle through 5th gear, driving it right to the limiter before shifting it into 6th and 7th, and then down 4 gears into 3rd, a short shift into 4th, and round in the final corner to complete a lap of Silverstone. But where will he go? P2 at the moment, 7/10 off Jab, who may have actually found a secret advantage with setting that lap time slightly earlier. Aaron Ocon goes 4th fastest. Some drivers still not able to make the most of these dry conditions, but if there's one man who can, it's the university sim racing expert Matty Mumu. As into Vale chicane now he comes, avoiding those sausage curbs on the inside. And crossing the line, beating his teammate by 0.3 of a second. A really strong Mercedes 2-3 as it stands at the moment. Oliver Crisp slotting into 4th fastest. Unlucky not to pip Edgar's there at the death. Ardell inheriting 5th. Pluto inheriting 5th. Will Cromack crossing the line, inheriting 7th. Thrasher will have no more runs. It'll be Kirby piss about at Stowe, quite frankly. But that is qualifying over. Relentless finish there, as the track dried to deliver a pole position time of a 1:26.844, which is quite a stark difference to when we last raced here in Season 3 on F1 2020. But you can't complain with that. A brilliant qualifying session. I think we can go again at 17:27. That is the 3rd week in a row we've actually gone at 27 minutes past the hour. The consistency, very clear. You'd expect that from a 5-star hotel. P7 with no practice, I'll take that. Can't complain. But on days like this, where the sun has now come out, you want the race pace to be there as well. Just a minute to go then until the formation lap gets underway. I'll take a very short break and I'll come back to you when we are ready. Well, welcome back, everybody. We are ready to get going. It is 27 minutes past the hour, which means we should get our first few drivers. Good luck messages being sent in. We'll have 26 laps ahead of us. But first, the first, arguably most important for some, the formation lap. Because, again, take a look at the strategic calls. Hard, hard, medium, medium, hard. Soft, hard, hard. Soft, medium, medium, hard. Medium, hard, 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 hard. Again, it comes back to me because I need to start a party, by yeah. I don't know if they could hear me through the game or not. Yeah, but it comes back to me because about every race I commentate, it is hard medium. All the time. But I like the skill gap for sourcing a few different approaches. And in that 1 in 1,000 chance you get the safety car at exactly the right time you need. And by exactly, I mean pit entrance, pit window. It can pay off. So, as I say, don't rule out any of these 18 drivers, particularly at the back where Cobb and Axe have found themselves starting this evening. Cobb replacing his fellow Cardiff resident Smeggy for this one. Kirby in place of our Greenhorners. Both Haas drivers absent tonight. Oh, start. Oh, start. It is race start time. It is subscription time. And he's reminded me of that dark day where me and the 11th place man, Gogglesaw, found ourselves very miserable in SK1. But that's for another day. For that to be replicated, perhaps next season. But this season, it's about Jab. And it's about Jab looking to reclaim P1 in the championship. Retirements, disqualifications for Thrasher, for Goggy and Andrea. They've missed their pit boxes, but for Jab this time, unlike in Bahrain, it's spot on. And all 5 lights on ahead of the drivers. How was that Alfa Romeo got away with that? And out! And we're underway, and Jab has he got a good start compared to the debutant Matty Moo here. He used to race in Tier 2, but here in Season 4 he's down the inside. At Turn 1 he pulls in behind the McLaren once again, but can anybody force the move down in towards Turn 3 and finish? Oliver Crisp from 4th on the grid is already up to P2, and look at that as Edgar's trying to be forceful there. There's all sorts of carnage as Red Bull and Alfa Romeo run wide. That's Thrasher, and I believe ETE Andrea. Have we got any more spinners? It's Beatnik! It's Beatnik, one of the championship protagonists, is around, coming out of Aintree. And that is such a shame because that soft tyre strategy requires you to have a good start. It's been the polar opposite, as it has for GSR Thrasher down in 16th, but the battling is still continuing. Oliver Crisp from 4th on the grid turns it into P1 around the outside at Cops Corner. What a brilliant move around the outside there, and he takes the lead of the British Grand Prix. Let's have a look at the biggest gainers on lap 1. Unsurprisingly, Kirby up 5, a brilliant starter. Axe up 6, and lap 1 usually is fatal flaw through no fault of his own. Cobb up 4 positions as well. Sadly, Beatnik down 12. Will Cromack down 9. GSR Thrasher down 7th, but Andrea up 8 on a set of hard tyres. You cannot get much better than that. And again, another championship protagonist. They'll be hoping that somebody is able to stop Jab today. And will that be Oliver Crisp, who leads at the end of lap 1 and wheel to wheel through the final corner? It's Axe F1 and Blue Goggy. A brilliant experience perhaps for Blue Goggy, and he's got Cobb following the American straight through in his fellow Ferrari powered Haas. Slightly wide though at turn 1. Is he, well, still on the track? Blue Goggy certainly wasn't. He gives it a late lunge. He gives Cobb, in fact, a little bit of a tap. And Atlantis, who crashed out in qualifying when it was still intermediate time, he didn't get a lap in on the slicks. He's having to fight back from his lacklustre qualifying position. He's taken them both. That is a brilliant move. And now further forward, ERS Ardell has got ahead of FRT Edgars. Pluto looking to follow him through as well. Edgars on the medium tyres. And a battle between Gogglesaw and Aaron Ocon, almost front wing to rear diffuser coming through. Maggots, Beckett's and Chappell. Gogglesaw, the vastly superior run through there, and now Kirby on the tail of the Alpine. Alpine having a shocking weekend in Baku. Haas trying to gamble late on. Oh, two teams in fact that tried to go the distance on a set of hards. We won't talk about the antics that happened at the end of the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. I would say I'll try not to give too many spoilers, but I'll tell you what, absolutely nothing happened. There's probably going to be 2 minutes of highlights on YouTube. You can go and find that out for yourself. Oliver Crisp, fastest lap of the race. He holds that as all the drivers come across the line to complete lap 2. Actually, scrap that, Beatnik. And down the inside goes FRT Edgars. It's suddenly a Mercedes 3-4, but Ardell trying to hold it on the inside. It's now the battle for a helping of DRS here, as we'll put the telemetry on. Aaron Ocon around at turn 3, I think there. Would be the first time he's had a bit of a nudge, if at all. The same thing has happened, and Pluto looks to go down the inside as well. He is an advocate for great racing. He will give us brilliant racing, even if the race doesn't need it, if you know what I mean, in the context of a DRS train. Still having a look nevertheless. As it stands, Jab will move on to 48 points, and that is an early time penalty for Oliver Crisp from the lead of the race. Sure, those behind will like that very much. Yeah, so 48 points for Jab. 43 at the moment for Pluto. So again, that 5-point swing going the other way. Here's Kirby. He's overtaken Blue Goggy at Stowe. A neat move there, but it's been a fairly clean start. I keep my fingers crossed that it stays that way, though there were a few antics in Bahrain. I think the overall, the general consensus, if you like, just trying to think how to phrase this, was just get on with it. I think everyone was largely content, which is how it should be in my opinion. But is there going to be a content move here for Jab as he gains on Oliver Crisp? He's got to go the long way round at Brooklands if he can pull it off. Hard against medium tyres. Just has to back out right at the last minute. To be fair, that is very good defending by Oliver Crisp. Axe from 18th on the grid. Already up 10 positions into P8. Gogglesaw might make it easy for him. Again, as I say, easing back into proceedings here. But the top three separated. It's not quite the coronation. That's next week, 6 days' time. For that one, not something I'll be celebrating, but I'm sure others will be. Fairly quiet. I think Andrea actually cleared Pluto there. I'm hearing things. Fastest lap of the race for Axe F1 as he continues his charge. The 10th, and he'll be in the DRS of his temporary teammate Ardell, 2000s. And Ardell will be in the DRS of Pluto. There is a lot on the line here. Once again, Jab sticks behind the Alfa Romeo. Kirby on Atlantis further back, just trying to find it. Here it is. Long before the braking zone into Brooklands. And again, LSJ Rundle on Aaron Ocon. Mostly damage-free so far, other than Thrasher, who's had an absolute nightmare and is already about to be lapped by his full-time teammate Oliver Crisp. Shouldn't be too long before we start seeing that. Another 3-second time penalty for Aaron Ocon. I want to avoid the joke about his tendency to get penalties, but unfortunately it continues to live on. Axe F1 up into P7 ahead of ERS Ardell. Switch down at Ferrari. Axe is a driver that people will be hoping to latch on to in terms of DRS. Cobb, another one, as he's made very similar progress through the field. From 17th, he's up to 9th. Gogglesword just starting to slip away, and Kirby is the next in line to overtake. Aaron Ocon having a spin through turns 1 and 2. The Alpine around there, and here comes for the race lead this time. Jabbed around the outside at Luffield. Surely not. It was into Copse on the opening lap where Oliver Crisp took the lead of the race. It shan't be into Copse again that Jab retakes the lead, perhaps down the Hanger Straight, as he still continues to be patient, because look at this top 6 train. Nothing quite like we've seen before in Low Drag Racing League this season. The last time we were here at Silverstone, there were a mere 8 drivers racing with 20-second gaps between them. We've come a long way since then. Jab still gaining, but still a reluctancy to get on the afterburners, also known as the ERS, and consolidate the move. And a yellow flag for Aaron Ocon. That's a crash on the circuit. Will there be a safety car deployed? It looks like we've got away with it again. It's now a top 7 train, might I add. First through 7th, all in the DRS zone, and again late on the brakes from Jab as... Oh, that's wide! FRT Edgar's long off the track. Andrea saying thank you very much. I'll take the inside now, the outside for the loop. He's cleared the Latvian driver, and he's up into 4th place, and now he's got to get on the battery to try and close into within a second. Meanwhile, for the race lead, 3rd time lucky, Jab around the outside, has to turn it into a switchback, and maybe again the long way around the outside at Luffield, still unable to get past the Alfa Romeo. Oliver Crisp's defending has been nothing short of superb, and he's got ERS in reserve as well. We will have to make an early pit stop, as will Edgar's, in this race and the battle for the lead, and to become the 3rd different race winner in 3 rounds this season. Slightly wide goes Oliver Crisp. Jab got to be careful, and he's got to judge the speed of the Alfa Romeo carefully to make sure he doesn't punt him miles off the track. Jab again in the slipstream using DRS, weaving around a little bit just to say no. It's a metaphorical shake of the head into Stowe, and that is a bit of grass there for Crispy. This is an unbelievable job of backing up the pack for who? I don't know at this stage. I think we're soon to find out. There's surely a measure of patience going on behind the wheel of the McLaren. Just how desperate is he? Just how frustrated is he? And for the fourth time down the Wellington straight, it'll be Jab to have another go here. And this time he is a lot more certain on using that ERS. But Oliver Crisp responding by using it too. Jab around the outside. I think that McLaren is carrying a bit more downforce. And again, forced around the outside at Lovefield. But the inside just too strong to really do anything about it. And again, Oliver Crisp for lap 8. For all 8 laps. Holds on to the lead. He took it on lap 1 from 4th. He's barely hanging on to it now by a thread, literally. Almost a bit of contact. Now, as the gap grows larger, down the hanger straight, if Cobb gets into this train, which he might well do if there's any more defending antics, it's going to be a top 8 train for the lead of the race. And, well, one has already cleared Ardell, as has the second, but he's going to try and hang on here. He's using the battery. We've got a bit of side-by-side action going into the braking zone of the Vale chicane. Ardell's still down the inside. Kirby leaves him a lot of space to swoop around the outside at Club and onto the Sir Lewis Hamilton straight. Oh! Oh, dear. Possibly some lag, possibly just lost it on his own, but one thing's for certain, there's front wing damage on that Ferrari, and he might have to take a bit of an earlier pit stop than originally scheduled. Back on to the fight for the race lead. Crispy now flashing due to the amount of ERS he's used recently, starting to save it through the sections of track where you have to lift off. Do forgive me, it's water today, nothing too spectacular. Rundle the latest to pick up a 3-second time penalty. And this time with Crispy flashing, is there going to be any sort of competition down into Stowe corner as Crispy tries to hang it down the inside? In fact, he's done so, and they're wheel to wheel on the exit of Stowe. Jab on the inside of Vale as he breaks late and late and later, but still Crispy down his inside, and still Crispy trying to retake the lead of the race. This is absolutely sensational as they come out of Club corner. But Crispy this time has to back out, but does he have the natural straight line speed to maybe get him back down the Wellington straight? I'm becoming tense as I watch this. It's one of those battles where you're unsure if you're nearing disaster or sheer brilliance. In fact, there was no competition this time around. Jab finally has re-cemented himself in the lead of the race, but he's having to defend again into Copse corner. Crispy looking really strong in the middle sector. Sector 1, Jab able to capitalise in recent laps, almost giving the McLaren a nudge, but it was perfectly weighted. And you can sense the top 8 here are all in this DRS train, are really finding themselves a rhythm and really finding themselves into a race they want to win. Crispy down the inside once again to retake the lead of the British Grand Prix. It shan't be too long before he pulls into the pit lane, but this time he stays out, and this time he's around the outside at Vale with Jab on the inside. Might try and turn it into a switchback, but Crispy's still on the inside. They come together. Crispy's around. Unbelievable. And I think Matty Mumu's been taken with him. I was talking about moments from disaster. That was the disaster we so anticipated. It's still all going on as Pluto down the inside. Oh, Andrea, and he's hit him! I'm lost for words. And they're still wheel to wheel, with Andrea making way this time, and Pluto following that half spin, swoops around the outside of the damaged Red Bull. Wow. I'm disappointed because that has taken away some battle. Axe F1 from 18th on the grid is up into P2. Cobb from 17th on the grid is up into P3. And don't ignore Kirby here, he's also up 12 positions from 16th on the grid. And Andrea speeds into the pit lane. It's a slow pit lane, 37 miles per hour. It's one of those situations where I feel like it was so good for so long, it was too good to be true. Nearing half distance. Blue Goggy, 3-second time penalty. Just not sure who to look at the moment. Pluto always won. Likes a bit of screen time. So there's always a chance he pulls off a spectacular move. Not this time though, into Stowe. Rubs right up against the back of the Haas and down the hill he goes. Pit stops in this race already for Edgars, for Andrea and for Rundle, and two of those drivers actually going at it at the moment. That was a move down the inside at Copse, which I'm absolutely gutted to flick onto. Just a little bit too late. A fastest lap of the race for Axe F1. Reminder, penalty at the moment for Jab. Not quite sure where that came from. Maybe the off-track altercation at the chicane. An FRT Edgars time penalty adds to his woes. 8 seconds now in total. A shame, because he was another one having a very good race. Just a reminder of the races to come. We go to Japan next week. Another track known for its S's. Where the margin for error is so small. I don't think it'll be anything like what we're seeing tonight. As Atlantis J20 looks to go around the outside of Oliver Crisp. Might turn it into a switchback. No, he doesn't. And into the pits goes Pluto, first and foremost, and Matti Mumu follows him in as well. Neither of them falling foul of a 5-second time penalty. And following Japan, we go to Abu Dhabi, Saudi Arabia. 2 races in the Middle East. We have a break week in between China, Monaco and Singapore. And of course that huge asterisk at the moment beside Monaco, because tomorrow we anticipate the release date of F1 23, and if it's anything like what we expect, we have to get rid of one of the rounds, and it will be Monaco, unfortunately. But it'll be a social race reinstated, I promise you. Down the inside goes Atlantis J20. Superb move down the inside for P5 in this race, as Oliver Crisp now tries to extend that medium stint as long as physically possible. That race almost now run because of the contact he had with Jab, and unfortunately Matti Mumu hitting the side pods of one of those Spinning drivers as well. It was Oliver Crisp, and Oliver Crisp picking up a second 3-second time penalty in this race. Will he try and go retake P5 on the racetrack at the moment? Atlantis J20 would be quite lonely without him. That's a slide coming out of Chapel, and all of a sudden Atlantis is rather safe, and he'll be quite grateful for that. Any of the top three into the pit lane? No, they aren't. As we conclude lap 14. Who's into the pit lane then? I think it's Thrasher. There's a lap down. Gogglesaw blew Goggy into the pit lane as well. Almost ghosting inside of the Williams there. Good job that feature is in the game, as there would have been some contact there, that's for sure. Just a bit of action from both pit boxes. And I tell you what, it didn't look like it at first, but Gogglesaw stays ahead there. That was very tight down in the pit lane indeed. Third retirement of the race is ETE Andrea, the driver sitting in a joint second in the championship, you could say, is out of the race here as well. As it stands, Jab would lead the championship by a rather large margin. Thrasher coming out onto the circuit, absolutely a lap down at the moment. But fair play to him for pursuing the end of this race, trying to find those marginal gains. Marginal gains are good gains. Quantum, mate, you've joined a league race. Right, Jab into the pit lane then. The race leader pulling the trigger first and hoping on the fresh set of medium tyres he can start to extend his advantage out in front. But Axe F1 and Cobb will be pulling off an in-lap here. That might well see those 1-2 in this race. Let's see. Jab's got the facilities for a strong outlap here. 80% on the ERS. Gently out of the pit lane he goes. We'll be monitoring to see what he does with that pit exit, and it's absolutely spot on. Pluto ahead of Beatnik, who was forced into that early pit stop off the soft tyres. On the risks you run on that strategy. Atlantis J20 rejoining the racetrack up into P9 at the moment, and without a penalty as well. Not a bad race indeed. Cobster certainly starting to use his battery. Axe F1 also doing so. But if we look at Jab, apologies, there he is. Actually, not too keen on it at the moment. If anything, he's actually gained deployment on that lap. Bizarre. We're watching though, because we'll have 10 laps to go when we cross the line. In fact, Axe and Cobb stay out for one more. So Jab, having seen that, will recognise that he doesn't need to push too hard too soon. He still could be on for a very good natural undercut here. Kirby into the pit lane though. Might well be a close race on the exit. Thrasher now retires from the race. That's in the pit lane, becoming the third driver in the pit lane to retire. Aaron Ocon, who crashed early on, didn't cause a safety car. We've been virtual and full safety car free so far. It's often what we quite like to see. A penalty for Gogglesaw. He's gone onto the soft tyres. I don't think he's quite got the model of the strategy. Those tyres really aren't going to last that long. He's running in a points-paying position. In fact, on the tail of Atlantis J20, an old friend. They date back to F1 2017 in terms of their alignments in league racing. Looking forward to watching that battle. And into the pits comes Axe. Into the pits comes Cobb. Both of them without a penalty. It is now Jab's time to shine. You'll see those two mini dots into the pit lane and the ERS starting to be deployed. 10% used there and then. Purple in the middle sector. A 3-second time penalty to the name of Jab. 5-second penalty to the name of Oliver Crisp for speeding in the pit lane. That takes his total, I think, to 11. There's the action down in the pit lane. This is the action out on the racetrack as Jab rounds the final corner to set the fastest lap of the race. But has he done enough to take the lead of the race? And by how much? Into the first corner, down one gear, up another. As he reaches the exit of turn 2, fine curve. And that gap at the moment, 2 seconds. It's going to be an all-American duel to the checkered flag with a Welshman in behind as well, Jacob E66. And he scored a podium on debut, Axe F1. A former race winner. With the help, Austria Season 3, I think. Momentarily, the gap was above 3 seconds. This might well come down to penalties. Axe might not feel the need. But Cobb certainly will. He'll be watching the gap from third to first. Will Cromack with a penalty as well. All sorts of tyres on the cars at the moment. Of course, the choice of tyres on the race starts having a lot to do with that, as here's Kirby and Beatnik going side by side. Beatnik giving that one up on vastly older hard tyres as we almost tried to go around the outside again, but you'll recognise again the penalty situation that Kirby and indeed Pluto's 2.6 seconds up the road both have. He inherits 2 positions as it stands. FRT Edgar's as well on 8 seconds of penalties. This could still be a P4 finish if Beatnik can take those hard compound tyres to the end. We'll have to wait and see though. Edgar's and Pluto, of course, can still start to slow each other down. Strong possibility that they will come and battle. Oh, my throat's getting sore. This is what I do to myself. Let's take my phone off charge. It's bloody ruined. .7 now the gap, and trust me, looking at my phone for a brief second, seeing if anything had kicked off. Talking of kickoffs, the scores on the doors, still 3-1. Might be able to catch the final 10 minutes of that by the time this race finishes. Cobb setting the fastest lap of the race, and I tell you what, DRS might have done him a favour there because he is still well on the tail of Axe F1. He's driven a brilliant race, has the Challengers Reserve, chasing the full-time Challengers driver. It's been a bit of a slow first sector, a bit of a slide in fact for Axe F1, a fastest lap for Oliver Crisp down in P12, and just look at this for a battle, and look at the vastly superior grip that Oliver Crisp has. Matty Moomin might not make this easy considering he ploughed into the stricken Alfa Romeo. Contact through Village and through the loop they go. Matty Moomin still on the inside. Oliver Crisp needs the traction around the outside and he's pulled off the move in spectacular fashion. Matty Moomin though, without a penalty, will inherit quite a few positions and he'll get up into the points paying positions as it stands. So again, not too desperate to maybe get that one back as we might otherwise see in a penalty-free race. You'd hope Japan next week is a lot more penalty-free. Really the only place you can start to pick those up is turn 2 and the chicane at the Casio Triangle as well. LSJ Rundle getting ahead of his reserve teammate today. Oh, no, he spun. I looked down for one moment, and that could be rear wing damage as well. For the driver that gambled onto a set of soft tyres, he'll be pulling into the pit lane, you'd think. Especially if he has any rear wing damage after taking a whack to the wall. Just 5 laps to go when we cross the line. Oliver Crisp has got ahead of LSJ Rundle well on the exit of Lovefield. Might have been a mistake there for LSJ Rundle. Another penalty for Oliver Crisp. A yellow flag in the first sector. That might be Gogglesaw 390 around once again. There are now 5 laps to go, and Beatnik has got ahead of Kirby, who's bizarrely pulled into the pit lane. Curious. Very curious indeed. Set of softs. Looks absolutely nothing wrong with that Haas. Okay. That is a jab strategy if I've ever seen one. Coins from the events of last week's race available still on this Twitch channel, or indeed the Low Drag Racing League YouTube. There might be a yellow flag up ahead, which may prevent Axe from getting the race lead on track. Not this time! Here comes Axe to the outside of Jab. It's an all-American fight in Great Britain, and Jab might just have to give way, but he's trying to hold on those 2-lap older medium tyres. Tries one switchback and tries the classic 2 switchback approach at the Vale chicane, and still he tries to poke his front wing down the inside. One bit from Thrasher. I'd like to know how much that actually is worth. But he's cheered on Axe, who leads the British Grand Prix. And Jab tries it again. This time there's contact, and the championship leader-elect is into a half spin. Can you quite believe it? I was looking at the stats and the figures since Axe took victory. Safety car! Wow. My viewers has gone up now that there's a safety car, so if I do stupid things, people might stay and watch what is bound to be a 2-lap shootout once again for the 2nd week in a row. Kirby, who had a points position secured, has pit onto soft tyres, spun, coming out of the exit of the final corner. I am lost. I'm so very lost. This is the only lap we'll have. And unsurprisingly, Rundle, Matty, Will and maybe Blue Goggy, those that can afford to, will pit onto a set of soft tyres. Stay tuned. Drop a follow if you haven't already. We've got at least 4 more rounds to run after... 5 more rounds to run after this. It is all coming down to this yet again. I think that's nothing short of a racing incident what happened between Jab and Axe. There was space and Jab sort of half-hearted, but he was confident that he could do something with that. Maybe take the race win on track. Pluto, as it stands, would still lead the championship, I think. Beatnik is on for third again. Axe is away early. He knows all about leading races and all about safety car restarts. And just like that, he's dropped Cobb by 1.3 seconds as we start the penultimate lap of this British Grand Prix. All in line. Jab, Pluto, Beatnik, Atlantis, who's got past Edgar's on the race restart. What a sensational move that is. And Atlantis might be chasing down Beatnik on the 18-lap old hard tyres to take a podium finish at home. Could you believe that? If it was to go on and happen. Oliver Crisp on 7-lap old soft tyres, struggling. He's not out of fucking fuel, is he? You are fucking off your knocker. Right, enough of that. I can't believe I've just seen a driver out of fuel. Well, it is what it is. And the gap has only grown since the start of this lap. Axe and Cobb behind, 2.1 seconds. Yellow flag as Blue Goggy spins. He was nowhere near the back end of the safety car queue, and unfortunately his race is run and he'll finish 12th in this one. Well, he might be able to catch Oliver Crisp, who's limping around there on absolutely no fuel. No more safety cars, no more virtual safety cars. It is pure action until now and the checkered flag with Atlantis J20. Down the inside goes FRT Edgar's, another driver with a penalty. But though that does stall his chances of overtaking Beatnik and taking the podium to himself. Starting the final lap of the race, Axe F1, who to my knowledge has not won since Season 3 at the Austrian Grand Prix. Sam Cole, the winner of the British Grand Prix in Season 3, the driver who went on to be champion in Season 3 in that very same scarlet red Ferrari. Maybe going for the final lap on this one as well. No DRS enabled, which will make overtaking very hard indeed. So all Jab can do is maybe try and secure the position on track with pure slipstream and pure ERS. Tension as the Blue Goggy, the Alpine of Blue Goggy spins again. Some clearly overheating tyres might well have got in the way of that particular fight. No. Fucking hell! Right. And that is just about that. as Axe F1 rounds the final corner from last to first. It's complete at Silverstone. Axe F1 takes all 26 points in Silverstone. A sensational drive from the American as Cobb comes across the line to take P2. And Beatnik, for the third race running, takes third place. Once again, he's done it out of absolutely nothing. A soft card strategy for the ages. What a sensational performance that is. Jab finishing fourth after a penalty that kicked him off the podium. Atlantis in fifth. Pluto in sixth by a tenth, with Rundle, Will Cromack, Edgars and Matti Mumu rounding out the points. Jab wants 2 warnings removed. It is not over until it's over. Oh, piss off with your fucking promotional views. Piss off. How do I get rid of it? Don't click it. I don't even know how you get rid of it. Right, results. Face cam off to take a look at that. Plenty more DNFs and plenty more to dive into in the next couple of days. Make sure you follow at LDRL on Twitter to get all of the latest updates as they happen after that race. You're going to need it. Thank you everybody for watching tonight. It's been a pleasure hosting you all once again. And until next time, take care. Goodbye.